Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Marty Kotler. I'm the president of Target Coding. Thank you for listening to this billing, coding, compliance, and documentation tip of the month. Today's topic is the 8-minute rule. Now, there seems to be a lot of questions on this particular topic. What constitutes a unit? Is it 8 minutes? Is it 15 minutes? Is it 8 to 15 minutes? There's a lot of confusion by providers on this particular topic. So we're going to be going over this, and hopefully after you listen to this presentation, you'll have some clarity on it. So let's go to the next slide. So there's a little confusion on what codes are considered time-based codes and which are not considered time codes. So let's talk a little bit about untimed codes. Some of the more common untimed or not timed codes, examples are mechanical traction, hot packs, cold packs, unattended electrical muscle stim. These are examples of the most commonly used untimed codes in a chiropractic practice. Now, there's a little confusion on untimed codes too. For example, I don't know if you've ever thought of this. Can you bill mechanical traction for 2 units if, for say, example, you do mechanical traction in the cervical region for 15 minutes and then you do another 15 minutes of mechanical traction on the lumbar region? Can you bill for 2 units? The answer is no. Another question that comes up intermittently is, are chiropractic adjustment codes timed? And the answer is no. So that's just a little quick update on untimed codes. There's a lot more information, but we're trying to keep this pretty simple with this quick video. So let's go over the time intervals for timed codes. Now, time codes are typically therapeutic procedure codes. There are some modalities that are timed, but let's just talk about the time intervals where if you provide a timed service or a therapeutic procedure, typically for 8 to 22 minutes, then you can bill 1 unit. So it's not necessarily 15 minutes. It could be anywhere, well, it could be as little as 8 all the way up to 22. So there's a range. Years ago, it used to be you had to do it for 15 minutes. If you didn't do it for 15 minutes, you did it for 14 minutes or less, you had to add a modifier, which I'm going to touch on in a couple of minutes. So there's a range now. This has been in place for about 15 years, I'd say, where we have this range of 8 to 22 minutes for 1 unit. 23 to 37 minutes would be 2 units. 38 to 52 minutes is 3 units. 53 to 67 minutes is 4 units. Now, multiple units can be performed on a date of service for 1 or more procedures, but now you have to base the total amount of time spent in direct contact with the patient. So you can bill multiple units, but you're going to have to add up the amount of time you spend doing all of the time codes and then determine how many units to bill. I'm going to get back to that in a minute. Let's go over what happens if you do something for less than 8 minutes. Let's say you provide a service for only 2 to 3 minutes. Well, according to the guidelines, if you spend less than 8 minutes performing a timed service, you shouldn't bill it at all, or you may be able to get away with using the 52 modifier. Now, I caution you when you're using modifier 52, which is a reduced service modifier, to be careful with the 52 modifier. In my opinion, it could raise a red flag. It tells the insurance carrier that you did not complete the service. Again, it's a reduced service modifier. Now, some carriers, they may develop their own payment policies relating to the reporting of time codes. And that may be different than what your interpretation is. They may be more strict than what you're used to billing. So they may require that you do a time code for the full 15 minutes. So some carriers, they may have a stated policy on this, so I recommend you contact the carrier. Get it in writing if you can. Send them a letter. If you're in network, that should be, they should be able to respond to you. If you're out of network, sometimes it's harder to get them to answer your question. But I recommend you attempt to contact them if you're not sure what their policy is on time codes. And if for some reason you can't get an answer from them, you send a letter and you're making a good faith attempt to contact them and you can't get any information back from them, then I recommend you just follow the Medicare guidelines on time codes. So let's just do a little recap. When more than one service represented by a 15-minute time code is performed in a single day, the total number of minutes determines the number of timed units billed. Let me state that in a different way. If more than one 15-minute timed CPT code is billed during a single calendar day, then the total number of timed units that can be billed is constrained by the total treatment minutes for that day. The amount of time spent for each specific mode, even if it's a non-timed code or a simple, straightforward, standalone modality, I recommend you put the amount of time you spend doing that service in the SOAP notes. So whether it's a modality or a therapeutic procedure, I recommend you put the amount of time you spend doing the procedure and the anatomic site or region where it was performed. So I have an example. I have a question for you. I have a few examples of these. Now, how would you bill if you performed 8 minutes of therapeutic exercises? That's CPT code 97110, and then you spent another 8 minutes doing 97140. That's manual therapy. So some of you may be thinking, well, I'm meeting the guidelines by billing, by performing 8 minutes of 97110, I've met the guidelines for that service. And then if I do another 8 minutes of another procedure, 97140, then I've met the guideline for that particular procedure. Well, in this particular example I just gave you, you would not be able to bill one of each. Remember, you have to add up the amount of time you spend doing the services. So 8 and 8 totals 16. So the appropriate billing in this example would be 1 unit. You'd only be able to bill one of those. You should select 97110 or 97140 to bill, since each unit was performed for the same amount of time and only 1 unit is allowed. Let me give you another example. Let's say you do 33 minutes of neuromuscular reeducation and 7 minutes of massage therapy. The total is 40 minutes. 40 minutes falls in between 38 to 52, so you would bill 3 units. You should bill 2 units of one code and then 1 unit of the other code. You would count the first 30 minutes of the neuromuscular reeducation as 2 full units, and you would compare the remaining time, which would be 3 minutes in this example, to the time spent doing the massage, and then you bill the larger. Let me give you one more example. 24 minutes of manual therapy and 23 minutes of therapeutic exercises. The total is 47 minutes. So the appropriate billing in this example would be 3 units. Each of the codes is performed for more than 15 minutes, so each should be billed for 1 unit. So the correct way to code this example would be 2 units of 97140 and 1 unit of 97110, assigning more timed units to the service that took the most time. Now, if you have any questions on timed codes, you should see a share button that you can tap on right now. while watching this video, and you can send an email to info@targetcoding.com if you have questions on this topic. So that was a quick little update. There's definitely a lot more information that you should be aware of when it comes to billing for time codes. This was just a quick little summary. So if you'd like to learn more about time codes or learn more about what we do, there's our contact information on your screen. You could email us at info@targetcoding.com. The website is targetcoding.com. Telephone number is 1-800-270-7044. We offer membership services, online trainings, customizable forms and templates, DVDs, guidebooks, webinars, seminars, and a lot more. Again, I want to thank you for listening to this Target Coding Tip of the Month. I hope you learned a lot. Take care. Bye-bye.